Guys, so you guys sent me this, and we're going to go through it because it's a special brand of holy shit. I just kind of gazed at it briefly, but we're going to dissect it. It's amazing that the 2020 election has kind of already started. And Tulsi Gabbard is the recipient of a lot of smears. And while there are certainly valid criticisms towards her, there are certainly things that I want to learn more about. There are also baseless, intellectually lazy smears thrown at her and thrown at Bernie in particular. You don't see that quite the same towards Kamala Harris or towards Cory Booker or towards Elizabeth Warren. Over on the GOP side, I mean, they've been a lot more quiet because, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, Trump's going to get the nomination. So anyway, this one, oh boy, it's a doozy. Is Tulsi Gabbard the Jill Stein of 2020? Let's explore. The Democratic candidate's perplexing Bannon-esque foreign policy. Right there. What an incredible... So, just because Steve Bannon, who is morally repulsive, absolutely morally repulsive, Steve Bannon, but because he was a non-interventionist in verbiage, and I'm sure it was only in verbiage. If Steve Bannon was still around, I'm sure he'd be fine with dropping drones willy-nilly. You have to call it Bannon-esque foreign policy. Right there is an incredibly lazy, unfounded smear, all right? Passivity towards Assad. You mean she went to Syria to see what was going on for herself and has concluded that our involvement is destructive. All right, so right there, those are two that are just baseless bullshit smears. And then there is the homophobia. Okay, once again, she was raised in a very conservative upbringing. It informed her politics. As the years went by, she changed. She has apologized for her past views. She has tweeted on multiple occasions that she does not have those views anymore. She has a 100% voting record from the Human Rights Campaign. 100%. That means she's voted on the right side for every LGBT issue. She has been pro-LGBT in every, for instance, with her voting. Okay, so right there, those three things, just in the subheading there, can kind of tell you that this article is going to just be a lazy smear piece. All right. And, you know, let's be honest, not to focus on surface-oriented things here, but like any smear piece, it chooses a photo that isn't the most flattering. This is not the most flattering photo of Tulsi Gabbard. This photo was picked deliberately. All right. The ill will towards Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who announced Friday that she is running for president, goes a long way towards explaining the political psychosis that has gripped the Democratic Party since Russia intervened in 2016 to elect Donald Trump. Right. It's Russia's fault that we have Donald Trump. How do people not get tired of writing this bullshit? It's Russia's fault that the working class was abandoned. It's Russia's fault that we had two of the worst candidates going up against each other in the history of American politics. It's Russia's fault that the DNC cheated the actual progressive who could have beaten Trump. How do they not get tired of writing this? Anyway, in another timeline, Gabbard might be an ideal... All right, Samoan, American, Hindu, female, an Iraq war veteran, environmentalist. All right. So here we go. Liberals who once encouraged diverse primaries. When was that? Are now deeply suspicious of alleged spoilers like 2016 Green Party candidate Jill Stein. Really? They used to welcome Jill Stein. So in 2012, when she was tied to a chair for wanting to participate in a debate, that was the Democratic establishment welcoming her. The Democratic establishment did nothing about that because they welcomed her. In 2000, nobody said anything about Nader. You didn't hear any of that? You didn't hear anyone pointing their finger at Nader? First of all, just the concept of the spoiler is arrogant bullshit. Our elections aren't private. I mean, technically they are, but they're not supposed to be. We're supposed to have a frickin' democracy. And it's up to a candidate to get your vote. But apparently everyone was fine with diversity and different primaries until 2016. Then everything changed. They were fine with it up until then. In 2008, they didn't exclude anti-war candidates from the debate stage as soon as they could. They didn't try to kneecap the actual progressive candidates every opportunity and just make it the Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton show. That totally didn't happen in 2018. Or 2008, excuse me. All right, let's go back to this horribly written article. Well, it's written fine. It's just the content is absolutely terrible. Perhaps the biggest red flag for the Russiagate crowd. Oh, wait, here we go. More. Who has faced question about her ties to Russia. There's a picture of her with Vladimir Putin that has been explained over and over again many times. Many times. She went to an event on her own dime. Jill Stein did. She went to an event on her own dime to talk about environmental issues. She happened to be seated at a table where Vladimir Putin was also there. It's so unbelievable people can even print this stuff. Perhaps the biggest red flag for the Russiagate crowd is Gabbard's perplexing coziness with Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. She actually went there. She went there. She went there to see what was going on. Okay. Gabbard's foreign policy heterodoxy might be surmountable if not for a multitude of other original sins. In late 2016, amid rumors that she was being considered for a Trump administration position, yeah, and they were exactly that, rumors. They weren't considering her for anything. She took a meeting to talk about what was going on around the world. That's what she did. That doesn't mean she's Bannon-esque. That doesn't mean she was being considered for a position in the Trump administration. It means they wanted to talk to her about what was going on around the world because she was a veteran that actually knew about what was going on around the world. And she said, yeah, I'll meet with you and we can talk about it. What, should she have said no? Should she have said, I know that you're about to be president, but I'm not going to do that? I'm just going to say no. Like, what do you expect? She's a politician. It's so unbelievable. They're using that to smear it. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, you guys see how intellectually lazy this article is, right? Like, these are just smears. There's not valid criticisms in here. This is just a smear piece. And, you know, because our election season is going to go on for the next 2 fucking years, it's important to know the difference between a valid criticism and just a lazy smear piece that is inexplicably still published by outlets that want to have some kind of journalistic integrity, I'm assuming. I mean, everything in there has been debunked years ago. And here it is just packaged and repeated. And let's see the exact date of when this was written, because I know it's recent. January 14th. Everything in this article has been debunked time and time again and explained time and time again for years now. I mean, pretty much everything in this article goes back to 2016, 2017. It's been the only time you see it is in a meme shared by the laziest of people. You don't like Jill Stein, that's fine. You don't have to like Jill Stein. But to regurgitate this just smearing propaganda because of a table she was sitting at, it's unreal. Dig a little deeper, please. You know, even though it would be bad for business for me, I wish we had what the UK had, where election seasons are 6 weeks long and they're actually way more issues driven. I really wish we had that. We'd have a better country if we did. And honestly, that'd be bad for me. I mean, like, as a content creator, that would be bad for me. Because of the longevity of our election cycles, more people get interested in politics, so more people find shows like mine. But I'd still rather have an election season that's not an embarrassing circus And we do not have that in the United States. Our election seasons are a circus. Other countries around the world laugh at us, and deservedly so. And our news structure is not a news structure at all. I mean, I was, I mentioned yesterday I was at a dinner gathering, and one of the friends there is Canadian. She's from Canada originally, and she, she's a very intelligent person. She pays attention to what's going on in the world, and she noticed. She's like, "Yeah, you guys don't have news here." Like, she noticed that. That was one of the first things she noticed when she got here. She's like, "You guys don't have news." I mean, at least not at the corporate cable level. Like, you don't have news. Like, you have this corporate-controlled media. It's not news. People from other countries, especially if they come from a country that has a state-protected media system, a state-funded media system, like, they'll tell you, yeah, CBC ain't perfect, BBC ain't perfect, but it's an actual news system. It's news. What we have is literally not news. And that's why you get pieces like this. Because they're propagated by the corporate media. Because Tulsi Gabbard doesn't serve the establishment narrative. She's anti-war. All right, let's go to the chat. Daniel says, what a joke. I agree, Daniel. Chris says, CNN, certainly not news. Ron, Harris aside, who do you think is going to sweep in the Deep South? I think the establishment hacks are going to undermine Bernie on Super Tuesday with that. We'll see. I mean, I think that... And again, I haven't put my hat in the ring for anyone quite yet, but I do like Tulsi Gabbard for the reason that I think she could have a lot of crossover appeal, just kind of being objective here. I think that the fact that she's a veteran, the fact that she has experience in that arena, the fact that she's a non-interventionist, the fact that she's very likable when she speaks, she's very well-spoken, she's not afraid to do outsider things. There are many ways where she is the ideal left response to Trump. Trump ran on this idea that he was this anti-establishment rogue, and it's all a lie. It's all bullshit. He's totally part of the establishment. He was just on the other side of it for a long time. He's still part of the plutocracy. This guy's, was born a millionaire through no work of his own. He's part of the machine. But he played this kind of outsider role. People bought into it. They liked that. They were tired of Washington as usual. So I think Tulsi Gabbard is kind of another example of that, but she's a genuine left-wing populist example of it. So I think she's got a real chance, and I think that would resonate in the South too, and in the Midwest. I really do feel that way. And I used to live there, by the way. Sometimes people, Ron, you're in California, you don't really know. I've traveled the country full time for 5 years. I used to live in Pennsylvania. I used to live in Tennessee. I went to college in Indiana. D. Canuck says that's why we get our news from YouTube. David, I suspect Tulsi will prove to be Hope and Change 2.0. I hope not. I mean, I hope she's the real deal. Do I know for sure? I don't know for sure. I mean, but, I've met her in person. She was really cool. For what that's worth. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Zero Divisor says many veterans would vote for her. I think so, too. DLJ, England has news. The U.S. has news. Z says the BBC equals horrible. I'm not saying the BBC's perfect. I'm not even saying it's great necessarily. I don't watch enough BBC to know, but I will say that the BBC, compared to what we have, is light years better. Compared to the media structure here in the United States. The BBC, again, I make the analogy, talking about the problems of the BBC versus the problems of the corporate media in the United States, that's comparing a paper cut to a cancerous growth. I mean, it is light years better. Is it perfect? Of course not. Mike Figueredo gets a shout out. He has some good facts on Tulsi. He's not a fan. And that's somebody who has, I think, I've not seen any of Mike's videos on it. I would like to see them, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it together some. But I'm sure Mike is somebody who has real criticisms. some actual criticism. And Joseph Sakata made a video too of actual questions he has and actual criticisms we need to look into and learn more about. And David gives a shout out to the Eyes Left podcast on Tulsi from a veteran's perspective. I should listen to that. Mike Preisner is awesome, by the way. I respect that guy a lot.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our